All right. Stream looks good. Stand by. We're off and running.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
All right, Drew, coming to you in 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome into First Pitch, Wager Talk's premier MLB betting show, playoff edition. I am your host, Drew Martin, joined by Dave Cokin and Steve Merril of WagerTalk.com. We are concentrating on tonight's American League wildcard play-in game between the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox. So a special edition for you, digging into detail in tonight's matchup. First up here, Dave Cokin. Check him out at WagerTalk.com. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Drew. Some mentions. I had my first ever 5% over and under wins prop in baseball this summer, and it was an easy winner as the Texas Rangers stayed way under their number. That was a no-sweat winner. I just yesterday posted my first ever 5% NHL over and under wins prop. So you have to wait to get paid on this, but I think it's a great play. And it was posted on $9 Monday, so it was just $9. We're going to keep it at $9 for today as well. So you can get that selection right now on my homepage, wt.buzz/DC. Also, I just posted a 4% NFL best bet free. It's on the Thursday night game, and it's free. That's on my homepage right now. And I posted my second 5% NFL play of this season. Goes on Sunday. The first one was a winner back in week 1, and the Browns plus the points against the Chiefs. I'm 3-0 on NFL 5% plays the last 2 seasons. I don't put them out very often, but this one really fits the criteria for me. It's a good matchup, and it's got something extra that I think makes it worthy of being a top-level play. I would get this game now. I think the line will move on this game. So check all that out. It's available, and I expect some really good profitable returns on these selections. And I do have plays in the baseball game tonight that I'm going to tell you about here on this show.
Yeah, playoff baseball. Also, check out Dave for hockey, guys, right around the corner. Wager Talk's #1 NHL handicapper. And we also got Steve Merril, always interested in his opinion. Steve, welcome to the show.
Drew, thank you. Dave, great to see you guys. And yeah, excited that baseball playoffs are here. You know, baseball's a long grind. It's great from a handicapping perspective because we get more volume, more opportunities than any other sport, all the other sports combined. Of course, finished the regular season #1 in MLB totals this year at WagerTalk.com. But as a fan, I love the baseball playoffs. Strategy definitely comes into play here. And these are just great games to watch. They're meaningful games. You know, regular season is 1/162nd of a game. One NFL game is like 10 MLB games, but it come playoff time, they all matter. And we started off tonight, some great wild card games. And isn't it funny, guys, with all the chaos and stuff down the stretch, Red Sox, Yankees, Cardinals, Dodgers. Maybe we all overthunk it, and the usual suspects are there when it's all said and done.
Well said, Steve. Yeah, it's going to be fun the next 2 nights, guys. Play in baseball. 2 of my favorite days of the season. Heck, maybe throw opening day out there if we get a Game 7 in the World Series. But it's fun to talk about, and let's break it down now. We're getting what MLB was looking for here, Dave. The New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox going in Fenway tonight, October 5th, 8:08 Eastern, 5:08 Pacific. Scheduled first pitch here. We get Garrett Cole going for the Yankees. Nathan Eovaldi going for the Red Sox. Both teams aces on the hill. I mean, with one and done, you got to think all hands on deck here. Dave, we're seeing -$1.25. That's the Yankees is the road favorite at most sports books right now. Can buy it as low as -120, but mostly -125 now, and a total of 8. Garrett Cole, Eovaldi, Yankees, and Red Sox. What are your overall thoughts here tonight in Fenway, Dave?
So let's first get the easy one out of the way. If there's an over and under on the time of game prop, bet the over, because the Yankees and Red Sox always play 4-hour games. So that'll probably happen. Weather tonight, I guess it's raining today in Boston, but they expect that to be gone by the evening, so there should not be a problem, particularly with a later than usual time start. Weather forecast mid-50s, so it's starting to get a little chilly in New England, and a breeze, not a big breeze, but a breeze blowing in. I think that contributes to what already was an opinion for me. It's not a huge addition to it, but it doesn't hurt. You don't want to play unders when the wind's blowing out at Fenway. There are some things that point me to the under here. Now, granted, Eovaldi's last performance against the Yankees was pretty bad. It was his worst start of the entire season. And Cole's last performance against the Red Sox wasn't all that good. But these are two proven playoff pitchers. Eovaldi was fantastic for the Red Sox when they won the World Series a few years ago. And Garrett Cole he's just one of the best pitchers in baseball, and you would expect him to step forward with a good performance here. There is a key injury in this game. J.D. Martinez will not be available tonight. He's not even on the roster for tonight's game, so this isn't one of those maybe things. He is out tonight. If you go back and look at what the Red Sox have done since J.D. Martinez arrived with the Red Sox, they're 80 games over 500 when he plays. They're a sub-500 team when he doesn't play. He is a big cog in that offense. And you've got an offense that in some ways has not been great down the stretch anyways. Xander Bogaerts has hit like 250 since the All-Star break. Granted, Schwarber's dangerous. Devers is outstanding and hit the big home run against Washington on Sunday that basically got the Red Sox into this game. But I think the Red Sox offense is going to have some problems tonight. The Yankees offense, who knows? I mean, if they're hitting the ball out of the park, that's great. But if they're not, they're still a team that has trouble manufacturing runs. And I do expect Eovaldi to be good tonight. Get into the bullpens, and I believe there's an edge for the Yankees as far as that goes. The Red Sox bullpen is completely unreliable. And never was that on display more than in the Sunday game that they needed to win against the Nationals. 8th and 9th innings, Cora didn't even go to the bullpen. He went to Eduardo Rodriguez to pitch the 8th, and then Nick Pivetta to pitch the 9th. And Rodriguez was on one-day rest off 90-something pitches. So it's like that's pretty much an indication that Cora has 0% faith in his bullpen. So I think the later portion of this game, if it's close, probably favors the Yankees. I think the mentality might also favor the Yankees because even though the Red Sox won the season series by one game, the Yankees won the last three meetings at Fenway Park, and they had comebacks in two of those three games. So might be a little bit of a psychological edge for the Yankees with no J.D. Martinez in the lineup and the fact that the Yankees had the Red Sox number late in the season. My play, I split this. Even though I have no confidence in the Boston bullpen, I wouldn't be surprised if Cora manages the bullpen somewhat similarly to what he did on Sunday, which is that he goes to starting pitchers late in the game if necessary because they're more reliable than his bullpen guys. And I do think Eovaldi's got a good chance to pitch well here. I think Cole's going to pitch well for the Yankees. It's a big game. I expect a big game pitcher to come through. And the Red Sox lineup isn't awesome right now. And the Yankee bullpen is a little more trustworthy. So I split this. I played the first 5 innings under 4, and I played the full game under 8. Made small plays in each game, or each proposition, I should say. So there's no big plays here for me. But I'm pretty comfortable with those two selections. First 5 under and full game under.
Great breakdown from one of the best in the business there, Dave Cokin. And Steve, coming to you next, to back up a couple, I guess throw out a couple trends to back up what Dave was talking about towards the under. The last 15 times these two teams have played, the Yankees and the Red Sox, we're 12-3 to the under. So they have played lower scoring games. I think there's really something to what Dave was talking about in terms of, yes, the Red Sox bullpen hasn't been great. By my ratings, about 20th in MLB. Now, the Yankees bullpen has fallen off in the last month as well. But both teams, doing the intro here, Steve, I was like, all hands on deck, meaning if you're a starting pitcher, you might be second up, first off in the bullpen. And that could kind of help the bullpen in suppressing runs. So that's another thing kind of pointing towards the under. We're also getting a total 8. And like Dave talked about, the weather, maybe indicating wind blowing in here. Now, both starting pitchers, Evaldi versus the Yankees, his last time out was not good, like Dave touched on. And also Garrett Cole down the stretch here. His last 3 starts, 15 earned runs? He hasn't exactly been lights out. So there are some question marks, but I see where Dave is going towards the under. What are you seeing value in tonight?
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, you stole my thoughts there about the bullpen. You kind of have to be careful with the overall seasonal numbers because, like you said, Drew, all hands are on deck. It's a one and
Right.
done. They'd love to have some guys fresh on, I guess, when is it, Thursday? They probably play again, either Thursday or Friday, but they don't. You can't worry about that right now. And it does set up well for both teams that they had their aces on the mound. I mean, with Cole and Evaldi, because they were in a dogfight here. They really couldn't take any games off this past weekend for the most part. One thing I'll point out about the recent, last week or so, these two teams end up identical records, of course. Red Sox get home field based on the tiebreaker. But, one game, one way or the other, would have made a difference there. And the Yankees closed with the last 10 games, or last 9 games, rather, against Boston, Toronto, and Tampa. 3 really good teams, playoff caliber teams. Whereas the Red Sox, after that Yankees series, closed with 6 games against the Orioles and Nationals. So, Yankees are really playing good baseball. They won the majority of their games down the stretch against tougher schedule. Speaking of Toronto, by the way, we joke a lot about run differential. We don't joke about it. We look at it. It's not a day-to-day handicapping metric, but it's a big picture metric we've talked about. Boy, you got to feel bad for the Toronto Blue Jays and their backers. They missed the wild card by 1 game. The Red Sox and Yankees run differential combined is 61 less than the Blue Jays this year. That's how much better Toronto was theoretically. 1 plus 183. Red Sox 80, Yankees plus 42, Tampa plus 206 for what it's worth. Joe Ranieri, Dave Cokin, and myself were right. The Mariners were not a playoff caliber team, as we'd said all season long. They missed it by 2 games, finished 90 and 72 with a negative 51 run differential. So anyway, Toronto really good this year. Maybe we'll get some buy-on value with them next year. I don't know if they'll fly under the radar, if they'll rebound because of that. This game itself, though, I do look for a pitching battle with these 2 starters. I think they bring their A game. We talked a lot about spin rate earlier back in June and July. Garrett Cole is the poster child of that, along with Trevor Bauer. Cole has pitched pretty well for the most part. He had a couple hiccups when all that stuff came out in June and July. Looks like he's made the adjustments necessary. But we're talking about the bullpens again. Keep in mind, the Red Sox bullpen, that first month after all the spin rate stuff came out, had the best ERA in all of Major League Baseball for like that first month. So they actually adjusted pretty well. I think both bullpens will be okay tonight in this one-and-done scenario. Playoff baseball, as I mentioned earlier, it's one of my favorite sports overall, and that's because of the strategy that comes into play. And they do play for one-run, low-scoring games. They try to manufacture runs in these playoff games. We see defense in all type of playoffs, football, basketball, but really in baseball. And I think both pitchers get it done tonight. And then finally, we look at the offensive, current form of both teams. Red Sox put up some runs and hits against the Nationals on Sunday, but they'd had 7 hits or less in 4 of their previous 5 games against Baltimore and Washington. Yankees, meanwhile, while they're winning for the most part, they've had single-digit hits in 5 straight. They've had 7 hits or less in 4 of their last 5 games. So neither team exactly smoking the ball coming into this. 2 aces on the mound, 2 bullpens, as you said, Drew, that are 100% deep as needed. I would agree with the under 8, and I'll point out it did open 9 briefly on Sunday night at a few sports books. That 9 didn't last long. It's a huge key number, obviously. Went to 8.5, and now it's 8. Some of it might be the Martinez news, as Dave said. He was listed as day-to-day. I think that was part of it when it looked like he wasn't as healthy. But once again, we have lost some value, unfortunately. 9 would have been really nice, but hard not to make an argument for the under in this game.
Good stuff there, Steve. And just a couple more points, guys, before we go around the horn and get final thoughts and best bets on this game. Also, Yankees a little bit banged up. Luke Voit and DJ LeMahieu, they will be out tonight. So it's not only the Boston Red Sox side kind of shorthanded. Again, another point towards the under here, guys. Also wanted to recap regular season win totals for both of these two teams. Boston Red Sox, 78.5. Go all the way back to before April. That was their season win total. They have vastly surpassed that. The New York Yankees, 95.5. So they actually are making the playoffs here, but their season win total not getting there because both teams finishing 92 and 70, matching up tonight in the wild card. Overall for the season, of course, depending what number you got at the closing line, the Boston Red Sox, a positive bet. If you bet on them every single game this season, positive 5 units, where the Yankees, a little bit overpriced, minus 2 units on the season. Boston comes into this game 11-5 their last 16 games. Again, the under 12-3 the last 15 games. These two have matched up together. Boston did win the season series, Dave, You touched on it, 10-9. However, the Yankees have won the last 6 matchups. So all of that coming in, trends are what they are. We get Eovaldi, we get Cole, Yankees and Red Sox prime time tonight, Dave. Final thoughts, and do you have a best bet on tonight's game?
I didn't make a best bet, but I did make 2 small bets on the first 5 under and the full game under for the reasons I already explained. A quick look ahead on an over and under wins prop for 2022. Obviously, we don't know what the numbers are going to be yet, but based on the rosters right now, this could change depending on what teams do in the offseason, but based on the rosters right now, if the Mariners are 81 or higher, I'll be making a strong bet on the under. That was a fluke this season. Their roster isn't that good. Their bullpen was ridiculously effective, and that usually doesn't happen 2 years in a row. That's a losing team waiting to happen next season in a division with Houston, what's still a good Oakland team, an Angels team that I think is going to be considerably better because they're going to add in the offseason, and there's this guy named Trout who's going to be back in the lineup next year. Seattle looks like a 4th or 5th place team. We'll say 4th because the Rangers are really awful. But mark that down in your future calendar when the totals come out in February, over and under win props for 2022. If the Mariners are 81 or higher, bet the under. As for an NHL over and under win prop, my first ever 5% NHL over and under win prop is up now for $9. And I also have an NFL 5% play for Sunday that is available right now. And I would suggest getting it now because I think this line will move. And I did put up a free best bet. This is a 4% play. You don't generally get those free. But I have a 4% play on the Thursday night game between the Rams and Seahawks. That is free right now on my Wager Talk homepage. Again, wt.buzz/DC.
Good stuff from Dave Cokin. Guys, check him out. And for my best bet, I'm going to go with the Boston Red Sox at the plus price. Can get them as high as plus 115 tonight. Eovaldi, the former 11th rounder, came out of high school, Alvin, Texas. Not as big of a name as Garrett Cole, where Garrett Cole, the former first pick overall from UCLA. I think he's commanding a little bit more name value here. The Yankees overall with this minus 125 price tag on the road. Garrett Cole, his last 3 starts, given up 24 hits and 15 earned runs, also 5 home runs. I don't think he's throwing the ball that well. And the Boston Red Sox lineup actually seeing it a lot better than the Yankees are. The Yankees, only at 75 weighted runs created plus number the last week. So for those reasons, the plus price on the home team with the Red Sox kind of been undervalued all season long. Positive bet throughout. Luke Voit, DJ LeMahieu out of that Yankees lineup. And Boston still having Alex Verdugo and Divers out there, both of which have a 925 or better OPS off of Cole. So I think we get a little value here with the Red Sox. And again, guys, all hands on deck. So I think they close that gap with the bullpen disadvantage from the full season numbers. So I'll go Red Sox plus 115. Throw it over to you, Steve, for any final thoughts. And if you got a best bet look on tonight's game.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Dave said about the Mariners, how much they overachieved. We look at run differential, it's net runs allowed, scored versus runs allowed, and in the overall 162-game season, it's a pretty good indicator how good a team is. You score more runs than you allow, long term, you should win more games than you lose. Mariners minus 51 net runs, as we talked about, that would have equated to 76 wins instead of 90. 14 less wins. Only one other team was close. One team should have had 9 more wins than they did, and that was the Diamondbacks, who were the worst team in baseball. And the Blue Jays should have had 8 more wins, as I talked about earlier, and they should have been ahead of both the Yankees and Red Sox. So maybe some early season advanced handicapping you can use for next year with those season wins. Blue Jays, D-backs, the biggest underachievers. The Mariners, by far, no other team was 6 wins or losses more or less than they should have been. Mariners were 14 wins more. That's how much they overachieved. I totally agree with Dave. They are a fade next year if we get the right number. Going to look at a free play, though, for Tuesday night in the AL wildcard game. First of all, I do have a best bet for my clients at WagerTalk.com on the side in this game. Looking at the run line, actually, is a best bet tonight. But the total was just a bit outside from making the cut, and I do like under 8 in this game. Now, the open 9 Sunday night, it quickly went to 8.5, went down to 8. Martinez injured, some other injuries as well. I think that was part of the reason the line moved, but for good reason. I do think both offenses a little bit shorthanded. Both are not in great current form. The Yankees have 7 hits or less in 4 of their last 5 games. Red Sox, despite playing the Orioles and Nationals, have 7 hits or less in 3 of their last 4 games down the stretch to finish the regular season. 2 aces on the mound with Cole and Eovaldi. Both are in great current form for the most part over the past couple of weeks, or a couple of months even. And then both bullpens 100% available because it's a one-and-done must-win scenario. Nothing will be left on the table. Playoff baseball is lower scoring to start with. It's because they manufacture runs. I think this has a close game written all over it, and I do think the under makes some sense for that reason. So Red Sox-Yankees under 8 minus $1.15 tonight at 8 Eastern, a game that's just a bit outside. Don't forget my top best bet is on the side in this game. It's available right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Well done, Steve. There's a recap for the best bets, guys. Red Sox plus 115 for me. Steve and Dave both looking at that under 8. Looks like there might be a little juice on that, minus 110 or minus 115. Check out the Wager Talk odd screen. So under and Red Sox at the plus price. Also, guys, another tidbit here, mostly towards that under with Steve and Dave. Playoff baseball rules, meaning if it does go into extra innings, there will not be a runner at second base. That could be a slight
Great
angle
point.
towards the under, right?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Real baseball. Real baseball.
We'll see what happens next year. Is that going to stay? Do you guys know?
I think the 7-inning doubleheaders are gone, right, Dave?
Yes. I think the 7-inning doubleheaders are gone. What I'm hearing is that they're going to go back to the regular extra inning, just regular baseball through the 11th inning. But if it's still tied after that, they will go to the man on second starting in the 12th inning. And I would definitely look for the DH to come into play in the National League next season.
Next year. Really?
I would be surprised if we still have a split. We'll see, but I think the pitcher hitting is gone forever. And I think one of the big arguments for that is how many pitchers got hurt batting this year. Yeah. They just can't have that.
And with interleague play also, you need to level it.
Yep.
When they weren't playing each other at all in the regular season, even then it was a little strange. I'll tell you what changed my mind on that, guys. Like 25 years ago, a friend of mine for college played for the Braves. He was the number 4 hitter at William & Mary and a star pitcher. He gets to the minors, and they wouldn't even let him pick a bat up anymore, he said. And he was the cleanup hitter in college. So that's when I changed my mind because it became a mockery. They didn't even want the pitchers to try to hit. And at that point, you got to do something. As a purist, I think the pitcher should hit. But when I saw that they don't even want him picking up bats anymore, at that point, it's kind of like the quarterback situation in the NFL. I didn't like that for years, but I've come to realize you have to protect the quarterbacks because literally none of them would make it through the season if you didn't have special rules for them. So I agree. I think the DH needs to come into the National League for several reasons.
Good stuff.
You know what?
Steve Merril.
I'll just throw this out. I mean, I'm kind of a purist as well, but there's 2 things that I'll say. Number one, David Ortiz doesn't become a Hall of Famer, and the Red Sox probably don't win any World Series if not for the DH. And I like the idea of seeing Shohei Ohtani. If there's if there's no DH, there's no Shohei. He's not playing the outfield every day and then pitching. This has been the best story in baseball in a long time. And I've got no problem with some of the older National League players maybe getting an extra year or 2 at the end because they can still hit, but they can't play the field. Just get rid of it, the pitchers hitting. It's a better game without it.
How ironic that your argument for it is taking the greatest hitting pitcher ever.
Well, yeah.
I was
going to say Ohtani's the exception to the rule, but it's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, if Shohei was in the national, if Shohei Ohtani is in the National League, we don't get what we got this year, and that was a great story. It really was. It was the best story in baseball this year. I don't think anybody can argue that. So that's the one that put me over the hump. It's like, okay, it's time for a universal DH.
The greatest hitting pitcher ever.
MVP.
Drew, the greatest hitting pitcher ever made Dave want the designated hitter. How ironic is that?
All right, guys, good discussion there. Red Sox plus 115, Yankees, Red Sox under 8 for the best bets. Best of luck if you're tailing out there. Feel free to comment below. On your way out, please smash that like button. Enjoy the games tonight, guys. We will be back tomorrow breaking down the National League wild card game. Come back and join us same time, same place. Thanks for tuning in.
Why is our 269
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers best bet or daily package for only $2.